Hey guys, what's going on? It's Steve from Outsider Garage. I thought I'd make a video today explaining Drive By Wire a bit. I know that there's a lot of common misconceptions about it, and kind of explain what Outsider Garage does with Drive By Wire, and hopefully, at the end of this video, you might be interested in looking into doing a retro conversion on your 90s JDM or early 2000s JDM vehicle, and we'd be happy to assist you with that. So, if you've spoken to me in the past, in person at a car show or whatever, I'm sure, or you've seen my car, you'll understand that my personal outlook on JDM cars is not exactly OEM centric. That's not to say that I can't appreciate an OEM car, but I do enjoy the concept of bringing older cars up to date with newer technology. Not just any technology, though, technology that increases the performance and reliability, and also adds to the satisfaction of ownership of the vehicle. And what I mean by that is sometimes 90s cars, if you're not an owner of a 90s car, like let's look at the icons, like your Skyline, your RX-7, your Supra, etc., etc. From the outside looking in, these cars look amazing. They're legends, right? But the reality of ownership at the end of the day is they are old cars. And I've said this before in previous videos, they are old cars. They are old cars with old car issues and problems. And despite, however, what condition they might be in, they're still old, and they still need a lot of love and a lot of work. A lot of people, they will replace a lot of the parts and they will bring them up into OEM spec, and I think that is a fantastic approach. But that can also be an incredibly expensive approach as well. As OEM prices have been increasing, there has been kind of like a point where the aftermarket, which used to be like the high point, is now down, equal with OEM, or even sometimes lower. So we see, aftermarket options coming in at a lower price point, and aftermarket options have some specific advantages so over OEM, right? I'm not trying to discount OEM, but let's say you have two sensors. You have an OEM sensor and you have an aftermarket sensor. The aftermarket sensor is a new sensor. It's a widely available sensor. If it breaks, you can buy one off the shelf. It's probably less expensive because of the price of OEM has gotten so crazy. So the mentality there is that if you have a car that is reliable, it is up to date, you maybe will be able to have more satisfaction in driving that vehicle, and you won't have to worry so much about things breaking or the cost of ownership being so high, replacing with OEM parts. This isn't for everybody, right? OEM is fantastic. You look at the, saving the car's value as being OEM, and you look at it as an investment standpoint, OEM is great. Aftermarket's not for everybody, but for those people that it is, that's the mentality, and I think that's really where a lot of this stuff comes into play. So anyways, back to Drive By Wire, and why is this an advantage? So you can look at this from a number of different angles, right? Personally, as a JDM car owner, now I've owned a number of JDM cars throughout my lifetime. My first car was a 300ZX. I've also owned the Toyota MR2, the Mazda RX-7 FD 3S, and obviously a number of Skylines, GTSD sedan, GTSD coupe, and a GTR R32. And I've also driven a number of these other legends that I haven't mentioned. Going to a drive-by-wire scenario in these, beyond what we already spoke about bringing them up to date, it also it introduces a number of key upgrades or features, whatever, that you would not have access to with a cable throttle. Your throttle and pedal are now directly tied into your ECU. So they are a input and an output essentially that are all electronically made. There's no physical connection anymore with the throttle and your foot essentially. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people think to themselves, well, you know, I want there to be a connection between me and the vehicle, and some people believe that the more technology that you add, the less of a connection that you have. Now, I do agree with that to a certain extent, but I think a lot of that really ties into how OEM applications kind of manage and handle all these things. And I can guarantee you that if you hop into a car with the 90s JDM car with drive-by-wire versus cable, you're not going to notice a difference, which is great, because that's one of the most biggest misconceptions about drive-by-wire is the pedal doesn't feel the same, and that's simply not true. In OEM application, say you're driving your mom's Toyota Prius and you stepping on the pedal, and there seems to be quite a large delay or a lag or whatever between when you step on it and when the car actually accelerates. A lot of people get that impression from drive-by-wire and OE applications, and they think to themselves, wow, I never want to have this in a race car or any car that I can enjoy or modify. That's has nothing to do with the drive-by-wire itself. It has to do with how the drive-by-wire is being managed. So OE computers they'll slow all these things down, they'll dumb them down, they'll make them quote-unquote safer, more fuel efficient, and the end result will be that they will feel a little bit different than your cable throttle. But you take that same setup now and you drive it by like a Haltech or a Link or an EMU or a Motec, and you're talking about lightning fast response. So if you look at it from one to one, I beg somebody to come over here and sit down in a vehicle and tell me the difference between a drive-by-wire cable, a drive-by-wire and a cable throttle body. I can almost guarantee you that in a blind, a blindfold test, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Now, so let's say those two are now equal side to side as far as the feel and the fit. What else? What else is there to it? Okay, well, drive-by-wire is electronic. What if something goes wrong with the electronics? Okay, well, what if something goes wrong with the cable? I've personally been driving, a car with a cable throttle and had the cable throttle stick open. That isn't the most pleasant experience either, especially when you're driving, in traffic, on, like on a highway. So I mean, scenarios will happen with any type of instrument that might result in a situation that is undesirable or is not supposed to happen or goes against how that product was designed. So drive-by-wire obviously is prone to those same types of malfunctions. However, modern drive-by-wire, specifically now talking about the types of electronic units that we use in our kits. So we've chosen primarily the Bosch throttle bodies, and we've chosen the Nissan 350Z TPS sensors for the pedals. Now we've done this for another number of reasons. These are proven units. The Bosch throttles, I mean, you're talking about a product that has over 100 million units sold in the U.S., both in OE and aftermarket. And these throttles perform, and they perform well, and they're reliable, and they're genuine units. They have what's called a built-in redundancy in them, which means that there's not just one sensor, like a signal sensor, that's being reported back to the ECU for the throttle position. There's actually two, and they are transposed upon each other. So when one goes up, the other goes down. So they're kind of like they're like the inverse of each other. So the ECU can use this information, and it can determine if one does not correspond to the other, then obviously it would create a fault, and that would go into limp mode. The limp mode on these particular throttles is closed, and that's good because you wouldn't want them to malfunction open. I've taken them apart personally. There is a physical, mechanical return spring inside the assembly that when the motor fails, it will automatically close. So you have that. There's that backup. And obviously, cable throttles have physical return springs on them as well. But there is another portion of that which is the cable which goes through, and there's also a mechanical interaction between the throttle butterfly and the throttle bore itself. And when those mechanical components stick, they can stick open, they can stick closed. They can be sticky in general, meaning that the throttle might not feel the same every time that you use it. It might be erratic and irregular. Drive-by-wire is not that scenario. It's either going to work 100% or it's going to be in fault because something didn't report back properly. Same thing with the pedals. So the Nissan 350Z pedals that we use, the pedal sensors that are in those, are some of the most widely common and accepted pedal sensors available. Again, they have that redundancy built into them, so there's two inputs going to the ECU, and there's able to do internal checks in there to make sure everything is correct. And they're very simple, very easy to set up and configure. They're widely supported by almost every single aftermarket ECU. So we're talking about really super easy, simple, reliable, available products. So you have that set up now, and now you're looking at, okay, so what are really the differences? If they're both reliable, if cable and electronic throttle bodies are both somewhat the same reliable, they're both somewhat the same, fit and finish and feel. So really, what's the advantage of spending the money and going to drive-by-wire? Well, drive-by-wire, as I mentioned before, it creates a electronic relationship between the throttle, the pedal, and the ECU. Whereas with a cable, you only have a relationship between your foot and the pedal links directly to the throttle. So if you have an electronic relationship between let's say your foot and the throttle, we don't have to look at that relationship as being linear anymore. So for instance, in a cable throttle scenario, if you press the pedal down, you're essentially pulling back on a cable, and the cable is then opening up the throttle. That will always be the same relationship no matter what you do. I mean, unless the cable stretches or has issues, whatever, what you do, that will always be the same relationship. And it's a linear relationship, meaning it's a one-to-one movement. So when I move this, this much, the throttle is going to move this much as well. So going to electronic, that no longer has to be linear relationship anymore. That can be a accelerated relationship. You can draw in on other specific inputs to change the relationship between those. Again, with some of the modern ECUs, you can map in some ridiculous scenarios to control all sorts of types of situations that you might want to be able to control or change. So that's one right there, and that I think is the most probably interesting. Secondly, is that going drive-by-wire immediately eliminates the need for an idle air control valve. And if you own a 90s Japanese or early 2000s vehicle, you understand the struggles of owning, trying to tune idle with a old IAC. These things are notorious for getting dirty, not working correctly, failing. And, give them a break, guys. They're literally 20, 30 years old. So, they did their job, send them into retirement. So, no IAC means no IAC. It means no hoses and vacuum lines and complexity running under your intake manifold, which is also nice because it kind of cleans things up. So, drive-by-wire, the throttle itself will control your idle. And the ECU, most modern ECUs will, again, you can do this in what's called a closed loop scenario, and you'll tell it what you want your target idle to be, and you can, set some small adjustments in it, and the throttle blade will open and close depending on the needs of the engine to maintain your idle. And you can also control, your max and min settings and all of that or whatever, but it gives you a lot better control of idle. And when I say a lot better, I mean a lot better. You have very limited amounts of idle control that you can perform with an IAC valve because the opening is physically very small. It's only meant to bypass a small amount of air, just enough to kind of assist in idle. And a lot of times, if you want more, what you have to do is you have to trim the throttle butterfly itself, which ultimately ends in having a higher base idle. And then again, you're moving the point in which you can control, whether it's up here, whether it's down here. Whereas with your drive by wire, I mean, you have a massive amount of idle control, and this comes in handy big time when you get really heavily modified. You have engines, larger displacement engines, strokers. They have higher air demands to maintain idle. You also have cylinder heads with massive cams, and you want to be able to maintain idle. There's all sorts of great scenarios where this is just an absolute huge advantage over an IAC valve. And then we go into other stuff that's really cool about drive-by-wire, is that now, what if you wanted to incorporate some cool electronic features into your car that you couldn't do before? So let's start thinking about what we could do there. So one of the things that a lot of guys are really excited about with drive-by-wire is the ability to introduce cruise control. And if you played around in most aftermarket modern ECUs, you'll notice that there is a lot of availability for this, or built-in functionality for this there. You go drive-by-wire, it's literally a matter of checking a box pretty much, and then configuring how you want your cruise control inputs to operate. I'll give Haltech as an example. So in Haltech NSP, you can literally check, I want to have cruise control. It'll open the cruise control display, and then you can define your inputs. One of the neat features about Haltech, obviously, is the CAN keyboard. So you set up your CAN keyboard, and you have inputs that you can configure for any specific action. You want to set your cruise, you want to increase the speed, you want to cancel your cruise, whatever. You can do that all from the keyboard. Really neat stuff. And then you get into even like racing applications as well. When you get into like the really heavy performance motorsports, you can use drive-by-wire integrated with dog boxes or sequential transmissions to have completely seamless shifting. So you might have a load cell sensor on your dog box. Well, now you can actually do the opposite for your downshifts, and now you can do an automatic throttle blip to rev match. No need for heel toe anymore. So the upgrade potential is absolutely awesome. And the cool thing about this whole package too is that it's almost around the same price point as an OEM IAC valve, at least for the the Nissan Skylines and GTRs at this point, because some of those things have approached upwards of like $700 or $800. So an entire plug and play, and when I say plug and play, I mean bolt-on. Outsider Garage kits are bolt-on solutions. They are matched to the either OEM or aftermarket flange to have a superior fit and finish. We're not asking you to cut your manifold in half and weld on a flange, because personally I can't imagine spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on a manifold and then being asked to destroy that manifold or alter it in order to upgrade to a piece of technology like drive-by-wire. So that's kind of our spiel. Like we design specific adapters for manifolds and specific kits for chassis. And yes, that is crazy. We have a ton of adapters, and that adapter list is growing every day, and it is overwhelming, but we want the customer to have the best possible experience. And we believe that the best possible experience is bolt-on and plug and play. So that's why we have our adapters. Whenever humanly possible, we strive to replace any of the OEM gaskets with our adapter with using O-ring seals. So you'll have a O-ring seal in most scenarios on both sides of the adapter, which means you can chuck your gaskets away, no longer need them. We include all the hardware. Our new kits are all supplied with high quality, yellow zinc coated hardware. Again, all the O-rings, and we also supply genuine Bausch throttle bodies. We offer adapters that use the Bausch 60, the Bausch 68, the 74, the 76, the 82, And we're even looking at some applications for some of the smaller Bausch throttle bodies, like the 52 millimeter. So we have a lot of options out there. The other thing that we're offering is custom manifold adapter design and development. So if you find yourself in a situation where you say, hey, I want to go drive-by-wire, there's no support for my vehicle, I want to have a kit, I want to have a manifold adapter, whatever it is, a pedal chassis adapter, we can do that. And we have done that many, many times in the past. You can go on the website outsidergarage.com, you can search custom manifold adapter, and you can see some of the results from previous customers and reviews. We have a great process. Our process from start to finish, in most cases, takes approximately, I would say, 4 to 5 weeks. That may be slightly shorter or longer depending on our current CNC queue. But how we do that is we work with you, the customer, in order to get as much information as possible about your manifold and about which throttle body that you want to use. We design in CAD an adapter, and by doing that, we'll be able to see whether or not your application will work or not work. And then we use best practices to design it. That we then 3D print it. We mail the adapter to you. You can then test fit the adapter on your manifold with your throttle body. And I would say 99% of the time, those fitment checks come back perfect. There is sometimes there's small issues where, okay, so we got to make the adapter a little bit thicker. There's other accessories or things that might be interfering with the adapters, where we might have to accommodate for that. But for the most part, it's a very quick process. We get the check off. We offer custom anodizing on our adapter. So if at that point you say, okay, I want my adapter to be red or gold or silver, black, whatever you want. And then we send it to CNC, and CNC takes about 4 weeks or so to delivery. And then once it arrives to us, it goes back out to you, and you have a perfect fitting adapter. We do that with our adapters, and then we also work closely with customers to develop pedal chassis adapters. So as of right now, we've been specializing in RB Skyline, obviously. We actually had just finished developing a pedal adapter for the Mark IV Supra. And that goes alongside with the new OEM adapter that we have developed for the 2JZ. This is, I can do another video later about this adapter and the entire kit for Supra that will be hitting the market shortly in the coming weeks. But we are our game, again, back to plug and play. What's required to make this kit completely seamless? And that's what we're aiming to produce and provide to you. So the adapter, the gaskets, like the O-rings, all of the hardware, the throttle body itself. We also have a line of throttle body adapters. Like, these are hose adapters coming out. Now you can buy, these are available from Vibrant, from Magnus, from a number of different places as well. We're making our own line of them for our own kit, so it'll be completely seamless. So hose adapters are great if you don't know much about the Bausch throttle bodies. A lot of the OE applications that are sold in our aftermarket kits were meant for Porsche. And Porsche has its own inlet clamp design, and it doesn't leave a lot of real estate to get a hose on there and attach a clamp. So that's where the market for these hose adapters comes. This gives you a nice big piece of real estate to clamp onto. We also have HD or Vangeon clamps coming out that are going to be available for popular Bausch sizes as well. And then all of the wiring that we do, so we offer wiring options for our kits. We have plug-in pins. So if you want to do your own wiring, you're more than welcome to use those to do that. You can incorporate the wiring into a wiring specialties or similar type of pre-built harness to accommodate drive-by-wire. Or you can order our premium unterminated harnesses. We have a harness that fits the Nissan 350Z and the Toyota Infinity pedals as well. And then we also have a premium Bausch harness as well. Our new harnesses are made out of premium wire and also include shielded signal cables. So we want to ensure that you have the best possible scenario and experience with our kits. So we have gone to extra lengths to make sure that we're providing the best possible products. Going inside the car, we have right now for our Nissan kits, we supply with the 350Z pedals or OE replacements if the genuine units aren't available, and and we also make chassis specific pedal adapters. Coming out in the next few weeks, there's going to be a big announcement about another product that's going to add to our lineup for Drive By Wire. I'm not going to get into that much, but it is going to be a game changer as far as Drive By Wire retro conversions. So anyhow, I think I've rambled on enough about this, but we have adapters for your application. We have, Hypertune, we have Plasma Man, we have the Zero Fab, the Otaku Garage, the Deep Motor adapters. We have OE adapters for RB20, S13, 14, 15, RB25, Neos. We have a kit coming out for the RB26 ITBs, which will also be launching a little bit later this year. Again, another video I'll do separately for that particular. We have adapters for basically anything that you can imagine. Greddy, old Greddy, new Greddy, different sizes, different throttles. We've done adapters for the raw brokerage manifolds. We've even made adapters for the Hellcat throttle body, like gigantic adapter. We have CPC. We have just about everything there is out there, and that's the thing about us. If we don't have it, make it. So if you were able to digest any of this information that I just rambled on about Drive By Wire, feel free to reach out. And if you see something on the site, you have questions, feel free to reach out, ask questions. We're glad to answer and help. We have resources on the website as well, technical installation, wiring. If you're going through it, chances are we've done it, we've seen it, so we can give you a hand in troubleshooting anything that might come up. Quick, also, guys in motorsports, racing, when money is involved, people look at Drive By Wire and they can say, okay, well, there can be failures. So we developed this kit, and this is what we're calling our AVS kit. This is an anti-vibration system. Again, outside a garage, bolt-on solutions. So we aim to provide a easy-to-use bolt-on solution for a problem that exists. So if there is a vibration issue in motorsports, let's say you're running a hot lap and the vibration causes the throttle body to fault, that's going to go into a limp mode. That's going to basically shut your lap down, and that's going to be the end of it. So using a HD clamp, we are able to isolate the throttle body from a lot of the vibration, because if you know how HD clamps work, there's no metal to metal contact inside here. This is contacted by an O-ring. So in motorsports, a lot of times guys are using solid engine mounts. They've got a lot of things going on. The engines are vibrating. They're freaking singing at 10,000 RPMs constantly around the track. The electronic units are certainly susceptible to vibration. This is going to be a huge advantage that is bolt-on, that basically connects up to your manifold that's already set up for Bausch 82. It converts it to HD, and then we convert back from HD to the Bausch 82. So you got two sides, one's manifold, one's the throttle side. It bolts on, and it gives you that anti-vibration. It gives you a bit of play in between the two things. And if you're real creative, you can use this for a different situation where you might have a limited space requirement. You need to make a tight radius real quick and put your throttle body out on a different spot. So anyways, something to think about. I'll leave you guys with that. Contact me if you have any questions about Drive By Wire conversions, or you're interested in doing an entirely different chassis. We are looking to accommodate everybody and bring this technology to the world. Thank you for your time. Look forward to talking to you.